Now, one of the things that did come out of it, well, that you had going into it was the website owner's manual. So where it was a free community, you also had something where I found it fascinating. You were giving away for free. And we had the conversation of sometimes when you give things away for free, people don't necessarily see the value in it because how valuable could it be if you're giving it away for free? So can you kind of walk me through that and then how it's kind of progressed from there? Because there are certain staples that is a staple in my life that not only do I have as a business owner that I use for myself, but for clients, something that I swear by, even if they're not going to work with me. My thing is, this is something that you need to have. So it's that kind of staple, and I'd love for you to tell people about it.
Yeah, so that came about probably a year, maybe 2 years. I'd have to go back and look at the timeline after starting the admin bar. And essentially for us as web developers, especially in the WordPress space, the lifeblood of our agency is monthly recurring revenue. And most of us get that through care plans. So essentially managing somebody's website for them. Explaining to a non-technical business owner that has never had a website before that they now need to do a lot of upkeep to keep their website running smoothly can be a difficult conversation. And I think a lot of times we sold it as, or the traditional way to sell it was kind of like, don't tell them about it at first because then they might not buy a website. And then let's tell them afterwards that now they have to pay for this insurance essentially, or like extended warranty, and it just doesn't feel like a real great way to have the sales conversation with the client. So we were kind of just brainstorming ways to be able to pitch this to clients in a way that was truthful and authentic and all those kinds of things, but in a way that they would understand and they could see why this was necessary, right? So we came up with this idea of creating a manual that it just explains everything that needs to be done for the website to keep running successfully. You need to have this, you need to have this. Every week you need to do this task, and every year you need to do this task. And if this breaks, here's where you look. And if that breaks, here's where you go. And it's purposefully overwhelming, I would say. It's all truthful, but it's definitely overwhelming to somebody who's not used to running a website. So me and my partner started using it in our own businesses independently and having really good success with it. So like you said, we put it together as like a lead magnet. At some point, we started building an email list. So it was a great lead magnet opportunity. I think we had it up there for a couple months and less than 100 people signed up for it, right? And it was kind of mind-boggling to us because we were making tons of money off of this thing and nobody seemed to care very much. Eventually we took it down, repackaged it, made it a little bit prettier, and then decided to put a price tag on it. And I think at the time it was $10 or $15. It was very, very low priced, but immediately it started selling. And I think within that first month, we sold 1,000 copies of it, which was mind blowing. We'd never sold a digital product like that before, but it was a great first lesson to me that, when you put a price tag on something, you're implanting a value in somebody's mind. So when you give them the price tag of free, they kind of value it at $0. It's almost worthless, So that's not to say you can't give away stuff for free. And we've done a lot of successful things that were valuable that were free, but the way we were packaging that didn't align well with the value it had. And as soon as we put a price tag on it, it started to do well. And now that's been, 5 or 6 years since it's been for sale. I don't really do any promotion for it these days. It's on our website. People bring it up and share it and things like that. But we still average 1 or 2 sales a day without doing anything, 5 or 6 years later. Those numbers add up over time for sure. It's not $10 anymore and those kinds of things. But it's been a huge success for us. And there was a lot of learning lessons in that,
Right. Well, I brought it up. It's not just so much for a plug, but it's to be able to explain to a lot of entrepreneurs and small business owners, a lot of the information out there are for people that are already at a certain point. What I'm trying to cover are things that are for people that are trying to get to 6 figures. And then once they get there, figuring out, okay, now that I'm here, how do I stay here? So I wanted to cover that because one, you figured out that there was a process that was actually helping you. And because you tested out with another person and that person was able to go, yeah, no, this is really helpful. They were able to see it. And that's that word of mouth that a lot of people end up talking about. And sometimes what happens is people are scared to be able to share it with someone and beta test it because their thing is, I want to wait until I know it's perfect. But that aside, I love the website owner's manual because you've explained what it's like for an agency or a web designer or a web developer, but I can explain it from the standpoint of being a consumer. Anytime I look at something, I still like to look at it from a consumer to go, well, how would I use it? And one of the things that I love about it is it's not just a product that I would say that is useful for someone that creates websites. I think it should be mandatory for anyone that has their own business and website, because if you want to have somebody new come in, if they have to try to figure everything out and see how somebody daisy chains something together, it's going to cost you more. So if you're trying to figure out how to be able to save budget and keep things manageable, having something that you can hand someone and it answers all the basic questions that they would ask is valuable. So I didn't want to just leave it at this is only for web designers. I think this is for everybody that wants to be able to have something that goes along with their websites. Yes, it was in its own way breaking down what it is that you do, but also I wanted to make sure that people understood the importance of it. And then now switch it over to the fact that you created it. You realize putting something out there for free, sometimes people devalue it just as something that they'll get to when they get to, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't have value. It just means that you don't understand how to use it yet. Because once someone understands the use cases for things, it opens up the doors where they can start to see the value in it. So the better they understand it, the better they can start to see themselves using it in the different use cases. So I think it's important to beta test and kind of test things out and kind of put something out there. Even if you're not sure, if it makes your life a little easier, you never know. It could be something that can make some other people's lives easier. And you have to ask the questions to be able to get there.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that stops a lot of people is like that fear of failure. Something in me, lack of shame. I don't know what it is, but I just don't mind looking like a fool. It's fine with me. I mess things up all the time, right? We all do. So it just doesn't bother me too much. So I've never been afraid to like ask the dumb question or whatever it may be to get it, get something out there and figure out whatever the answer is. Like if I'm wrong, I want to know that I'm wrong as soon as possible, right? Because then I can be right. I don't want to just be wrong and argue that I'm right because then I don't get anywhere, So for me, it's never been, thankfully, I'm not too worried about looking like an idiot, which is really lucky. My family doesn't love that, but for the most part, it served me well. So yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Sometimes you just got to put stuff out there and kind of see how it plays. And you're going to get feedback from people and all that. Those are opportunities to make things better. And honestly, the website owner's manual and any other thing we've put out or been a part of is better when you get feedback from it, right? So you got to get it out there and you got to start somewhere. So
yeah, no, it allows you to be able to refine things and get it to the point where it's as polished as people want it to be. But it takes going through that to be able to get to that. So you don't put something out there and it's perfect right from the start unless you've taken the time to research it for so long. And even with that research, you still have people interacting with it to be able to give you that feedback. So are you worried about the public shame of getting it wrong? But then people can see the effort that you put into getting it right? Or are you going to say, I'm going to do all of that in the dark and then people still question you? Well, how do I know you're right? I don't want to call it Sophie's choice because that's a little cold, but it is one of those things where you kind of have to think through how you want to be able to do it.
yeah, obviously you don't want to do something irresponsible. There's a line to be drawn, right? You have to have some pride in your work and all those kinds of things. But I've spent forever on something and then put it out there, and doesn't matter how long I spend, there's always something later I want to make better or change. So it's like, okay, well, I could have fast tracked that process if I would have just started with an MVP and iterated from there. I could have got all that feedback sooner. I could have got more testing out of it, all those kinds of things had I started sooner than work on it, alone in the basement for as long as I can, and so many times it just stops people in general. Like I said earlier, I'm the most motivated to do something as soon as I think about it. So the longer it goes on and drags out, I start losing interest and momentum and excitement and all those kinds of things. And that doesn't help the project for sure.